Hello, my name is Rachel, and today I'm bringing you my February wrap-up. So overall, stat-wise, I did okay. I wish I'd read a little bit more, but I say that every month. So let's just talk about what I did get read. So I read 9 books. Only 2 of those were on my TBR. I had a stack of 8 books on my February TBR, and I only got to 2 of them. However, in my defense, I feel like most of these books were on my general, I really want to get to these soon, so they kind of ended up replacing some of my TBR, which, I mean, I don't know. I guess I struggle with why I do TBRs because I genuinely want to read all the books that I put on my TBR for the month, but then I very rarely ever stick to just those books. I'm going to try to work on that more this year, but nonetheless, I read 2 of the 8 books on my TBR, 9 books total, 2,520 pages. So that means roughly about 280 pages per book. That's my average. And I read around 87 pages per day. So I'd really like to see most of those numbers go up in March. That's going to be kind of my just month-long goal. I'd really like to try to read at least 12 books in the month of March, and I'd like my pages per day to be much closer to at least 100 pages read per day, with my average pages per book being a little bit closer to 300 because I have some lengthier books on my March TBR. So with all of that being said, let's quickly look back at my overarching yearly goals and see how I did this month. So the first goal that I had for myself this year was to post 1 video a week, and I did 4 videos for the 4 weeks in February, 100% on that goal. Next up was to do videos in this setting with my lovely bookcase in the background, and for that, I would argue that technically I got 100% of this because 1 video was a vlog, which I don't usually just sit here through the whole vlog, but it is present in the vlog, and just the whole idea of a vlog itself doesn't lend itself to one particular background. So I would argue that I nailed this with another 100% this month. My next goal was just to enjoy reading more. And by this, I just mean to pick up books that I want to read as opposed to books that I just feel obligated to read. And I think I did okay with that. Now, the catch was that I didn't end up enjoying as many of these as I'd hoped. I had a really solid 3-star reading month where everything was just okay. I mean, I didn't really dislike much this month, but I didn't really love anything either. So I don't know. I would give it about a 70%. I think I was trying to pick up books I was interested more in than usual, but I just didn't end up actually enjoying them much, so we'll go 70%. For my Book Riot reading challenge, I completed 2 tasks this month. I read a retelling that was by a person of color, and I also read a poetry collection as an audiobook. So I got 2 out of 24, which is 80% complete on my Read Harder challenge. Towards my goal to read 100 books, I am now up to 14 total. Obviously, that's 14%, and I'm only 2 books behind. So I'm hoping in March I can get caught up with that goal. For reading every book for my 2 book clubs, currently, as we're filming this, I'm at 50%, but I do have another week before my next book club, so I could finish my book before then. So I'm between 50 and 100%, which is kind of a huge gap, but basically I only had 2 books to read, and I finished 1. I just need to finish 1 more, so hopefully I will get that done in time. And then my last goal was just kind of chill out on the reading challenges and just relax. And I will say, as if we're focusing on just particular reading challenges, I did pretty well. I really relaxed this month, even though I got super hyped about some reading challenges. I just try to let that inspire some of my picks instead of being really rigid about like, I have to do this, I have to do that. So there was a contemporary-a-thon going on this month, there was a thriller-a-thon going on this month, and then the teen reading challenge that I mentioned all in my February TBR. And I participated in all 3 just really vaguely. I read several thrillers for the thriller-a-thon, just not necessarily in that particular time frame, and I didn't really I didn't really aim for the challenges. Same thing with the contemporary-a-thon, perhaps not in that window, but I still used that to inspire my overall reading for the month, which I'm happy with. So I think I chilled out a lot, but I do still feel like I've been a little bit hard on myself, so I'm gonna give myself like a 65%. I think I'm pretty chill, but I'm like amped up. Like I feel like my TBRs are still a little too ambitious, so I'm going to try to chill out in that. But overall, I'm fairly happy, even though I'm only at like a 65%. I think I'm much more improved. I think last month it was only like a 20% chill. So, and again, those are just arbitrary ratings that I feel how I'm meeting those goals. So, take that as you will. So far, I'm pretty happy with reaching my yearly goals. I'm hoping my stats goal will improve, and let's get to the 9 books that I read this month. So first up was a reread for me. That was Interment by Samira Ahmed. I talked about this, I felt like a lot in my vlog, but overall, I didn't enjoy it as much this time, but I still think it's a really interesting read. I would recommend it to people who are looking for a little bit of a speculative future. This takes place in a very near future where there is a Muslim ban and they are beginning to be put into internment camps like the Japanese were during World War II. So if you're interested in that theme, I would definitely recommend picking this up. Solid YA for speculative fiction. Overall, though, 3 out of 5 stars for me. So after that, I ended up getting the flu, and I listened to these next 3 on audio while I was like laid out with the flu and was unable to do anything else, which could contribute to my lack of enjoyment of them. But I think overall, they're still just kind of like 3-star mysteries. So the first one was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I was really pulled in by the plot of this. We have a woman who has murdered her husband, has been arrested, has been convicted, and then sent to a mental hospital because she's refusing to speak now. And we have a psychologist who is just knows he can reach her and is wanting to work with her. And I love the setup of this. I mean, I feel like this was just going to be such a great book for me, and I just did not enjoy it as much as I wanted to. Overall, 3 stars, but I just didn't like any of the characters. The only reason I continue to read is because I'd heard the plot twist was really impressive, and I wanted to hear the plot twist. I was not impressed by the plot twist. I don't know. I think it was just an average book. I don't see anything wrong with it, but it just wasn't like fantastic. So 3 out of 5 stars for me. Next, I picked up, and it's got this ugly little sticker on it, but it's called An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. This is by Helen Tursten, translated from, I believe, the Swedish by Marlene Delargy. And this is just a collection of short stories about this little old lady who is essentially a serial killer. And again, the premise totally got me. I would say maybe the first 2 stories I enjoyed, and I think there was only like 4. I think there were only 4 stories, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was 5. I really enjoyed like the first 2 stories, but then it kind of got redundant, and there was one that really pulled me out of the point of view. Like it just really kind of switched on me and kind of lost me. So overall, interesting, super tiny and super short. So if you're interested in all, I mean, you can read it like in one sitting. But yeah, overall it was okay. Again, nothing fantastic, but interesting, and it was okay. 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I've been hearing such good things about this, and this was my first Ruth Ware book that I read. Overall, again, I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting. The ending is what really dropped it down for me. I think my general reading would have been like a 4-star, because listening to the audiobook of this, it was so creepy listening to like the sounds in the house and just the elements it made. It was really creepy. It was atmospheric. I really enjoyed this idea of the smart house and just things being so creepy and you don't know what's happening. I really was into it, but the twist, I guess, the reveal at the end, like, I just didn't buy it. I just didn't enjoy where the ending went, so it was a 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. I wish it would have gone somewhere else, I guess, but I don't know. For me, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Again, nothing particularly wrong. It just wasn't for me, so 3.5 out of 5 stars. I would recommend the audiobook for this though. Again, super creepy, super atmospheric. Next, as I mentioned, I listened to specifically The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace was the one I used as my choice for the Read Harder Challenge to listen to a collection of poetry. I also used the opportunity to finish the other 2 books in this poetry series that I had on my shelf, but I had not read, so I listened to all 3 of them as an audiobook. So it's The Princess Saves Herself in this one, which I gave 3 stars upon reread. It just was, again, okay. I liked some of the poems. I didn't get some of the poems. I'm just not a poetry person. So I think For me, it was just an average reading experience. Similarly, the second one is The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one by Amanda Lovelace. I liked this. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. My least favorite of the 3 was The Mermaid Returns in this one. I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I liked that all 3 of them were very cohesive and they fit together. They were very stylized to fit together. I like the overall like feminist vibe from them. So I think these will be books that I might add to my high school library because I know they really enjoy poetry and I think they could really find themselves in some of these poems. So I used this also for my teen reading challenge, but I completed all 3 of these, roughly 3 stars for all of them. Next, I read Tuesday Mooney Talks to Ghosts by Katie Rachael, and this was my peer book club's pick of the month. We read this one together this month, and I will say the premise was really awesome and hooked me in. The book was okay. Again, a 3 out of 5 stars for me. This was essentially marketed as almost like an adult version of The Westing Game, which is one of my favorite books as a child. So I was really excited to read this, and essentially that's kind of what happens. And this eccentric billionaire dies and creates this game across the city of Boston, and they're all trying to solve the clues and win his fortune. But there's a lot more going on than just the treasure hunt that is weaved in, which I think overall, I think the author did a great job of weaving in these deeper themes. It really did tie in pretty seamlessly. Like, it didn't seem like there were like deep moments, treasure hunt moments. It all rolled together very well. It all tied in really well. I did like the ending. But overall, I just struggled with this book, and that seemed to be the general consensus of what I've heard so far from the feedback. Our book club meeting is later this week, so I don't know for sure, but overall, it just seemed like there was a little bit of lag in this book, and I found that as well. I started listening to the audiobook of this while I was still a little bit under the weather, and I just couldn't get through it. I kept falling asleep and having to start like all over again the next day. So I had to put the audiobook down after like 2 or 3 tries and just read it, and that seemed to help a little bit. So like I said, overall, like I can't point to anything in particular that's wrong with this book, just maybe a little bit of a lag while you're reading it, and overall, just kind of an average book, a fine book if you're interested in it. Again, this is very kind of mostly contemporary, possibly a little speculative, adventure. There's a lot of like surprises, I think, along the way, a lot of like reveals as you go. So if you're interested in that, I would recommend this. It was okay for me. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Perfectly fine book. And the last book that I'm going to mention, technically I finished on the very first day of March, but we're going to go ahead and count it here because I read the majority of it in February, and that is Of Curses and Kisses by Sandhya Menon. Now, I did have an e-arc of this, but it just totally got pushed to the side when I got sick, so I definitely picked it up after it came out. So I was kind of like reading all 3 forms so that I could finally get to this book. I've been dying to read it. I listened to some of the audiobook, I read some of it as a physical book, and then I read some as my e-arc copy that I got. And all 3 worked very well. I really liked the idea of this overall. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is a lot more in my wheelhouse than I think it would be for some people, because it is very angsty teen romance. So if you're not into that, maybe not for you. But if you're into that, this will be for you. Essentially, this is going to be the first book in a new series by Sandhya Menon. I can't remember the name of the school right off the top of my head now, of course. But they go to this boarding school, St. Rosetta's Academy. That was it. This is going to be the first in a series at St. Rosetta's Academy. Now, I don't know if this is true, but what I'm hoping is that each one is going to be a different fairy tale retelling. This one is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and we have our 2 main characters. One is an Indian princess and one is a British nobleman, and I love the fact that she tied into actual like history. There was like bad blood between their families dating back to when the British were controlling India, and there was a jewel stolen, a curse put on the English family, and I really like that like historical element, how she made it a lot more realistic in nature. Like our beast in this one is not literally a beast, but he is basically burdened with this curse. He's kind of described as very beastly, which is fun, and there are so many little like Easter eggs, little like homages to Disney's Beauty and the Beast that are in here that you will find, and every time I hit one, it just made me enjoy it. So there was something about it though that just kept me from giving it a 4-star, but I really did like it. I think I tend to I've liked your other 3 books a little bit more than this one, I think, but I did enjoy this. Will 100% read the rest of the books in the series. She just writes romance that I personally love. I know that my particular brand of romance and books is not for everyone, but it's just angsty and a little over the top dramatic, and I just really, really enjoyed it. I thought this was just a really, really cute interpretation of Beauty and the Beast. 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. Possibly even a 4 once I sit on a little bit more. So here you have the 9 books that I read in the month of February. Here's hoping to even more in the month of March. Please let me know down below your favorite book of the month in February. I'm always up for talking books in the comments. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now.